Hi, everybody. I'm immigration lawyer John Khosravi. Thank you for joining us again for this session of JQK Law, talking live about U.S. immigration law and taking your questions live on YouTube, LinkedIn, Instagram, and TikTok. Feel free to shoot out your questions. We come live every Tuesday at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern to discuss U.S. immigration law for general educational purposes only. This information changes constantly, so you got to stay updated. Even while we're talking and doing the show, sometimes the law will change, and afterwards, like, oops, 10 minutes ago, the law changed. What I said it was correct, but that's why I come every week to take your questions. I've been doing it for years now. I think it's sixth year that we're doing this. The 6th year anniversary, actually, that we're doing. I started this live show. So thank you all for joining. Thousands of people, thousands of questions have been answered over here. Again, it's general education only, not intended for individual legal guidance. We got to talk about you and your case and dig into your background. I just recently got a consultation, and it kind of started. They actually watched the live show to get to know me better, and then we had a consultation. And after that, we started the case, started digging, and we found there's an issue in background that they didn't expect, didn't understand. The previous lawyer didn't catch it and give bad information. And it wouldn't have been caught unless there was, an hour or two of time spent reviewing our old documents to find the issue. It was bad, unfortunately. It's a bad situation for them. But nonetheless, we found it and prevented things from getting worse. And that's why you got to talk individually with an attorney. But for the case that we handle, we focus on marriage, green cards, fiancé visas, consular processing, adjustment of status, and also E2 investor visas, things that you may heard about N600, N600K, naturalization, citizenship, the reentry permits. We kind of focus on this stuff: marriage, talent-based, and achievement-based, and small investors, L1, E2 kind of cases. We don't do asylum cases, going to immigration court. So if you ask questions about those humanitarian cases, VAWA, we don't specialize in that, so I don't really want to go too much into it, but happy to just generally talk about it. Jimmy Lai, incredible consistency. Have a great show. Thank you, Jimmy, so much. God bless you and the great work you do on LinkedIn. Fellow immigration attorney in Oklahoma, but also handles cases from everywhere. A lot of investor cases. Well, good guy to talk with, Jimmy Lai. I appreciate it for coming on the show and the kind words. So we're live. Feel free to shoot out your questions. We're going to get inundated in a second. That's how it usually comes. Charcuterie, thanks for joining. Nasiba, thanks for joining. And Behnush, thanks for joining. Enrod as well. We have different people. Let us know where you're from. If you're watching this, say what city or what country really you're tuning in from, because it's an international program. It's all over the place. Now, one of the questions we're going to get a lot on the show is what's going on with these travel bans and pauses. They're all in place in the same way, whether it's a 75 country ban where they won't issue immigrant visa, green card case for people from certain countries. They add an exception if it's an adoption related case. That's the biggest change there. But the USCIS pause is still there on March 3rd at least, where 39 countries for security issues, they're going to pause almost every type of case that's going on there. You can submit the case from Nigeria, Iran, Sudan, Syria, and different countries, but they're not going to move the case forward unless exceptions apply. But if you're doing like an I-90 green card renewal, that'll be okay. And very few other types of cases, but even work permits are supposed to be paused. So be aware of that. A lot of people I've run into, both clients and people coming to me for consultations, as well as other immigration attorneys, aren't aware of this, as this stuff changes a lot. And if you're not used to dealing with trial ban countries, it doesn't come on your radar a lot. But I deal with a lot of the countries that are subject to trial ban, so it's something I see regularly. We have a question. I'm probably not going to answer this. Could you please check if there's an alternative SOC code that's better aligned with the? I'm not going to check this. I'm not going to do legal work for you. Please schedule a consultation, and an attorney could get retained for searching that stuff. This is not intended for that level of individual guidance on what your SOC code is for your wage one level classification for your job type. That's not what we're intended here to do. Manny asks, what are your prices for removal conditions? I said my divorce. We don't talk about prices either. It really depends on your case. So removal of conditions, and really quick, Double Jello says, I'm Boston, Massachusetts. You're helping a lot of people. That's great. Thank God bless you. So I think so. So Manny asked about removal conditions. What is the price is? I can't say what it is because when you're getting divorced, the case gets complicated. I-75 on removal of conditions is when you've been married with a U.S. citizen or green card holder, you got your green card based on that, and you get a conditional green card. After 2 years, you have to renew it to show the relationship was real. It's their way of double checking to make sure this wasn't a fake marriage. And in that renewal, we got to see what's going on, how much time you have left to renew. Even though with a waiver, you're not limited by 2 years, we always want to submit for the 2-year mark to avoid getting a notice to appear in immigration court. So how much time there is for that, how long you were married, what the situation of marriage, was there abuse or not, how can we develop the explanation of the abuse. Let's say just a marriage that just didn't work out. What kind of evidence do you have of your relationship? What happened? What are the details? So some people might have 3 kids and then they get divorced. Well, it's much easier to show this relationship was real to keep the green card if you have 3 kids. Most likely you don't have any kids. You didn't get married and have kids. I mean, I'm married to have kids that quick a time. So then we got to see what joint documents you have. I also have to talk with you to see how you're going to do an interview. And some people, we ask them what their name is, and they stutter and don't know what it is. So, and some people are really smooth with it. So all these factors have to take consideration. Now, I'm not selling peanuts here. It's not all peanuts. Some firms will do that. We have good service. We pay attention. We spend time, and we want to make the strongest case possible. For me to just put a number on this, how much the case costs, that diminishes my value towards you. If I was like that, there are other attorneys do that. God bless them, and they're commoditizing and selling hamburgers or something like that. But we're not about that. We're about what's going on in your case and what suits you and what services you need. It's a different level of service, different level of lawyering that's involved, and so asking about prices and stuff. I never say the prices until we talk with the person, and then recently the person got annoyed and kept calling like 5 times and emailing 5 times. And I just said, listen, I'm not going to tell you the price. I don't know about you. He's like, no, it's a clean case. Anyone who's ever told me they have a clean immigration case, 99.9% of the time they don't. It's always opposite. Every time. It's just weird. And every time someone asks me, we're in a rush, please do this quick, and we're rushing, they're not rushing. Every time, we just had to fire a client yesterday, because they were in a rush. So we canceled everything for 2 weeks. We're sitting there, my associate, waiting for people, and they didn't move. And we fired them. They're like, no, we'll start being fast now. I was like, no, we waited 2 weeks. We wasted a bunch of time, did stuff ahead of time before you even signed the contract or pay, because we knew you're in a rush as a courtesy. And then you just like, la, 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 la. So we're really strict, too, on like what we expect from our clients. But we got to see. We got to dig in deep to see what's going on in your case. And so if you want to have that scheduled private consultation, fees do apply. We'll look into it, and then we'll tell you what's going on. But normally, if people ask us how much the fees are, that they don't hire us. So they don't even schedule consultation. So that's what I've learned from 15 years of doing this. If you want good service, you want a good attorney, no one ever starts with the price. They start with who this person is, how much can they help me. They ask about pricing. It's just out of 100 cases, 99.9% don't want it or don't appreciate good work. Now, I see my video feedback right here. My wife told me stop blowing your nose or using a tissue while you're recording. Springtime is in the air in Los Angeles. I'm getting these allergies, and it's tough. So I got to get the tissue out. Which, like, these video recordings, when I see you have a tissue on your nose, always look very gross. So I want to apologize. I see it too. It looks gross to me too. So I'm sorry that for those watching. Favela, thanks so much for all the likes. That's awesome. And everyone else who's on TikTok liking, please follow and share this feed so other people can learn about what's going on here, what kind of questions we can answer. User 87 says, been waiting for the oath ceremony for 117 days. Curious what you have been seeing. So what, User 87, what country are you from? You may be part of the pause. So that's a factor, a really important factor where they're doing that. And for a lot of people, they're canceling interviews and oath ceremonies just all over the place too. It's kind of a wild situation. So we're seeing some people everything's going through is fine. And some people are even outside the pauses are not going through. Evan asks, can I hire you for my dad's 212F Iranian national? Hi, Evan. So Iran is part of the various travel bans, and they're both this executive order travel ban plus the 75 country travel ban. I don't think I could do anything. Try contacting other attorneys to be able to help you. I don't think I could do anything right now in the circumstances the government care, but maybe other people have had success with that, so I'd recommend consulting them. And Cherry says, hi T2 user 87, Brazil. Well, nice. Well, we have a lot of Brazilian clients. And unfortunately, Brazil, large country, a lot of clients we have from there is subject to the 75 country travel ban. So that's a wild situation that came up as well. But thanks for joining from Brazil. That's really cool. So feel free to shoot out your questions. One thing I forgot to mention is we have a guide called the Ultimate Marriage Green Card Guide. You have to go to a website called marriageimmigrationlaw.com to download that free 70+ page guide. It's marriageimmigrationlaw.com. If you're interested in citizenship, download our Ultimate Naturalization Citizenship Guide. The website for that free guide, 50+ pages, I think 50, yeah, is jqqlaw.com/citizenship. Again, that's jqqlaw.com/citizenship. All right, next question. Interior asks, can I travel with my expired permanent green card? You shouldn't. No, you should renew your green card. And when you file for renewal, they'll automatically give you a extension of your green card. So if you have it renewed, use that receipt. That's an automatic extension and use that to travel. Now, whether you can travel individually, I don't know your background, if you've been arrested or have other immigration issues, if you properly filed your application, if you even submitted the right form, I don't know. So we have to see what's going on in your case before I can advise. So please schedule a private consultation and see what's going on. Even then, entry is always up to the customs officer. It could be issues we don't know about because there's data we don't have, or they make mistakes too. So it's never fully safe, but overall it could be. The main first thing is if you're a green card, your 10-year green card, you have to file for renewal to get that automatic extension. User 40 did include prior name change as a minor in the I-130 for petitioner. Now we have an interview. What to do? Well, we could update at the interview. Probably better to update it before, but I would want to see that, what's going on, how to track the name change of the proper documents, why you wouldn't have listed in the first place, how that affects your existing documents, in your all this kind of stuff, if the spouse knew or not. So we gotta go into it and talk about it, but that could be updated beforehand and at the interview for our clients who do that. But I got to know what was going on there that you missed. Boss Lady says, can one with the prima facie go for biometrics with an in absentia order? So I think prima facie talking about a VAWA case. Can you go to biometrics with an in absentia order? They could pick you up. There's risks. So prima facie, it doesn't provide. So in VAWA, historically, they will give you deferred action where if you have a Violence Against Women's Act case or U visa case, they would not pick you up. But under current guidance on memo on ICE, it's possible that they do that, and unfortunately, there's no protections. Most people are okay. That's not going to happen, but I can't say it's not. Shadow says on the updates on green cards for banned 75 countries. I talked about this a little bit earlier. Shadow Formula. The only update is that if you're doing an adoption case, you're like a adoption-based green card case, they'll make that. But other than that, there's no real updates. They're saying they're going to update here and there, but now the war starting stuff, I'm not sure what's going on with this immigration system. User 4 says, it was an honest mistake. Do I just tell them the interview? Can I get denied for this? I got to see how bad it was or how it's related to your case or how it affects things. So I need to review the situation to see what's going on and what documentation that they have of the name change. Was it done properly? I have to see it for myself to be able to advise and how I defend it and all that kind of stuff. Okay, so hopefully it's not about having reviewed the case and diving deep into it. I won't be able to say here, but definitely you have to bring it up and fix it and have the documentation that's proper for it. So for those just joining, we answer questions about U.S. immigration, mostly family-based marriage and fiancé visas, parent cases, and small investors, stuff like that. SRT Singh says, asylum seekers make home country passport. I don't recommend it. When you get asylum approved, the laws are you can't use the protections of your home country. This includes visiting your country or even using a passport for that home country. Now, they haven't enforced this historically, even though it was in the law. But under the Trump administration, I wouldn't recommend it. Asylum seeker who's asylee or is going to get a green card or has a green card should get a refugee travel document until they become a U.S. citizen and they use their U.S. passport. Reha says, are people from 75 countries who file adjustment of status inside the U.S. getting their green card appointment-based? So if you're a 75-country ban, it doesn't apply for USCIS. However, there's an overlap. A bunch of the countries on the 75-country list also are subject to a USCIS memo that says there's a pause on most of their immigration cases. So I wouldn't be worried for that situation with USCIS if you're listed on the 75-country ban, like Brazil or Egypt or something like that. But if you're Iran or Nigeria or Venezuela, then you will be subject to a pause, so that's going to affect you inside the United States. SUSS says, hi, our case is F2A was documented qualified on November 2024. Till now, update on interview email, what to think about. It depends on which embassy you're from, but there's delays in getting the interview. So even if you're documentary qualified, sometimes I just got a case of documentary qualified 18 months ago, or maybe 20 months ago. You had an interview notice for 2 or 3 months in the future. So depending on which embassy you're on, these things could be heavily backed up. Nepali idea says, what is the hope for 75 countries that are banned right now? Green card holder after interview, what they do. Unfortunately, there's no hope, I mean, other than just waiting. SUSA says no interview at all. I'm not sure what your question was in the first place. F2A, yeah. So I don't know. It depends on which SUSA, which embassy you're handling. That has a big effect on things. Sam Shark says, John, any updates for marriage green cards for Iranian spouses of green card holders? Nothing good. It's just the same terrible news that they're paused the case. They will move it forward with USCIS. If it's already with the embassy, they're going to get essentially refused at the embassy. And so we got to see what's going on there. And as a green card holder yourself, you might be under review and inspection for the petitioner. If they're a green card holder, they might be reviewing them because they're reviewing recent green card cases. And you got to make sure your green card is done properly. At the beginning of the show, I talked about a case where reviewed and potentially the green card had issues that they didn't catch. That could be a problem now. So you got to do a deep review of your own case just to make sure that's good. And what you send the I-130, because people, especially when they do on their own, they don't fill out these forms with enough attention and they don't catch inconsistencies or errors or stuff, especially relative to their previous application on dates, for example, and places they work, places they live. So you want to check on all that and really have a good attorney that could go with you and cover these things. But overall, it's going to be paused. no news that's helpful happening. But thank you for your message or question, Sam Sharkey. I appreciate it. If you're just joining us, I talk about U.S. immigration law, taking your questions live every Tuesday at 4 p.m. Pacific. I'm the founding attorney of the JQK Immigration Law Firm, helping married couples, fiancés, small-time investors for the E2 and L1 visa, and people with extraordinary ability in the EB1A category get green cards, get visas, and eventually citizenship. Mohammed says, can you tell me about I-730? So we don't usually handle I-730s, but those are spouses and children, dependents of asylees who are applying to get their asylum status as well. Normally through the embassy is how it's done. First, they file I-730, gets approved, and then transfers to the embassy for processing to get the visa to come to the United States, where they'll be able to, get asylum and eventually apply for a green card and citizenship after that. Just if you are a refugee, you got to really timely file for green card and submit it because this administration is really cracking down. It might be subject to a pause, but might as well have it. Bharat says about I-130. So what about it, Bharat Shahi? Be more specific what you're asking. What about the I-130? If you're watching on Instagram and YouTube, feel free to shoot out your questions. We're catching you here as well. I know we got a couple of people here and there. Again, your questions about U.S. immigration law. The trial ban situation isn't getting any better. In fact, it's getting worse, probably. We'll see. Mohammed says, is it faster than visa processes? Is what faster, Mohammed, than visa processes? Be very specific in what you're asking because it's at the reference to something. Vignesh says, so my wife is in Van, Turkey right now because of the war in Iran. Her visa appointment is at the Mumbai consulate in India, April 10th. She is from Iran banned. That will happen for her visa. They'll still do the interview, but they won't approve the visa. They might get a refusal, 221F, 221G, or 212G, or something like that. So it's not going to move forward unless there's an exception for minorities of in Iran, like certain minorities, religious and ethnic. If she falls within that exception, maybe that could work. So that might be something to look at. Be My Escape says, are they processing adjustment of status on a country ban? The thing is, they're saying that they'll accept the case, so they're processing it, but they're not going to adjudicate it, which means a final decision. So potentially they're processing it if it's good, just sitting on it and not approving it, but that's what they're saying. Sartum says, our case at the embassy, what happens? We got to wait to finish up the embassy section and wait for an interview schedule. SSW6 says, hi, John, I'm an F1 student and I've submitted an I-140 and an IW and it's currently pending. I-485 is current for my country, Iran. Can I submit I-485, then get CPT from a school? Are there risks? There was a communication with USCIS Ombudsman's office, I think, where they said that if you have an adjustment of status pending and then filing for CPT is still okay, or OPT and stuff, we'll still approve it. It's not a problem. But, the thing is, they're not going to approve the I-485. So unless you're just trying to find a way to your student visa is going to end. If you're on CPT, there's no point in filing for I-485. I need to review your individual circumstances, but it's not that big a deal. It might be different, but for most cases, again, it's not individual legal guidance. I don't see the benefit of filing for an I-485, especially if your NIW is pending, you submitted it, and it's not even approved. You could just get CPT. I'm not sure what the rush is or what the point of it is to file for I-485, but it might be different. Your case might have unique circumstances. Hi, John. Okay, Vignesh says she is Azeri Turkish from Tabriz. Is that a minority? You have to show. I'm not sure if the Khamenei, the leader, was Azeri or Turk or something like that. So you give it a shot. I mean, it's probably for Kurds and for Baluchis and for Sunnis and stuff like that. I haven't heard of Azeris having that, but you give it a shot. Why not? Say I'm Azeri, find some stuff online showing that they're getting persecuted and give it a shot. Muhammad Ali says, I mean, is the I-735 faster than many visa processes? Sometimes I-730s get approved faster, sometimes slower. It doesn't really matter. I mean, you can't use the other visa process, so I don't see how important it is to see if it's faster or slower. If I-730 is the path you have, then do the I-730. The timelines vary dramatically. We've had I-730s get approved in 2 months. We had approved in 2 years for no reason. So, it doesn't matter. You just got to do what you got to do and handle that. Milky Way says, Vignesh says, thank you for your help. You're welcome. Milky Way says, good day, sir. Watching from Calgary, Alberta, Canada. Cheers. Wonderful. We have most of our clients are Canadians too, actually. So thank you for joining and thank you for watching. We help a lot of married Canadian married couples and fiancés where, one spouse is Canadian. And that's a dominant kind of case we do for both adjustment of status and constant processing. So I'm glad we're getting out to you in Calgary. Appreciate it for coming on the show and mentioning that. Okay, so we only got a little bit more time. We're here to take your questions live by U.S. Immigration Law. I'm John Khosravi, founder of the JQK Immigration Law Firm and the Immigration Lawyers Toolbox, a separate company that has training for immigration lawyers. I recommend downloading our guide, whether you're doing a marriage green card case or not. You get on our email list as well. Go to marriageimmigrationlaw.com. The website is marriageimmigrationlaw.com. Download our Ultimate Marriage Green Card Guide, 70 plus pages of information, and also applies to most other immigration categories that we get hyper focused to marriage. I'll help you get a better understanding of the immigration situation. Also get on our email list. So I appreciate for those who do and those who are interested. Let me know if you also want to do a naturalization case, because first and foremost, I say download our Ultimate Naturalization Citizenship Guide. Go to the website jqklaw.com/citizenship. Download that guide. It's jqklaw.com/citizenship. SS says, thanks. The reason for the rush was because the visa bulletin may be pushed back significantly in the coming months, and also have F1 status till 2029. So the F1 status, it's if you want to school, that's fine. I will do that. And plus, although it's current, I think you said you're from like Iran. EB1A is not really that backed up. So even if it's current for EB1A, I think you said NIW you're doing. Let me see what the NIW EB1. It's very strategic. I wouldn't just do it because there's a lot of bad information online that say do it. You have to strategically choose if it's a wise idea to file adjustment of status, because that's going to open up them investigating your background too. And so potentially an RFE that's problematic and denied, and all the problems that can emerge. So you really have to think about this with proper counsel. A lot of people use, I had this problem in another case. So there are immigration attorneys that are great at doing national interest waivers, EB2C, NIW. There's immigration lawyers that do great EB1A work, I-140s, but they don't know consular processing. They don't know country conditions for Iran. They don't do adjustment of status. So they don't catch all the inadmissibility issues. They're really good at this one thing, but that one thing is like they're really good at making an engine of a car, a Ferrari engine, the best, but they don't know what's going on with tires, and they don't know what's going on with brakes. And so all of a sudden they make the best engine possible, but it doesn't have brakes. What does that happen? You're getting in a car accident, you're going to die. And unfortunately, I see this issue all the time with these immigration attorneys that know employment base, but they don't know the rest of the case. And so you got to study the fundamentals. And the fundamentals is really tricky if it's a wise idea to file for adjustment of status just because the date of filing is correct. So I'll be hesitant to say go do that. Maybe it is appropriate for you, but we'd have to sit private to talk about that to see if it's appropriate. Lonnie says, does USCIS have records from your old country? I don't know. Probably not, but I mean, USCIS keeps records for US. Vignesh says, is it best to take the interview and wait for postpone after the ban lifts? Can you think of any workarounds? Maybe spouses ban or other. So I can't think of any workarounds. It's really that. Just check out the travel ban. Whether to go to interview or to avoid it or postpone it, that's strategy I can't give you here. That's up to you what you want to do. We can talk about it, but inevitably, we don't really know how this is all going to play out because they're just making these things up as they go along. So it's really hard to say anything clear. Memory Style says, how long after the interview for a marriage-based adjudication do you usually wait to get a decision? Nowadays, it can easily be 2 to 4 weeks to get it. Sometimes it happens the same day, next day, 2 days, but 2 to 4 weeks is the good average right now for adjustment of status in the United States after the interview. Fern says, will someone applying for citizenship get approved if he worked when he was under F1 student and disclosed everything on the green card application? Applying for citizenship approved if you worked under F1 student. If he said in the green card application and it was waived, like, if you're married to a U.S. citizen, if you work with authorization, it doesn't matter. It's fine. It's still provable. And discretion is there, but they'll prove it historically. But if, for example, you're married to a green card holder and you work, that's a violation. You shouldn't be able to get a thing. So we got to see whether it was just because you said it is one thing, whether the officer noticed it or not is another. So we got to see what was proper. And then some people like worked and you say like they claim to be a citizen to get a job. They falsely, you claim to be a citizen. That could be a problem. So we need more information on what the work was, what you did, what you disclosed, where you're at, and to be able to properly guide you on that. It's not that simple as you just outlined right here. We need to go more through a story. So through Asylum, working with authorization is a problem too. It accumulates unauthorized presence days. So we got to see if you traveled or not before your approval, all that kind of stuff. But you're probably okay. But I got to see what's going on before I could advise. That's too case specific. Memory Styles, just thank you for the viewer badge. Ross Big says, came on a P3 visa and overstay. What do I do next, please? I don't know. We got to see what's going on in your case if an option is possible. You overstay, you typically there's asylum or humanitarian cases like VAWA, Violence Against Women's Act. There's U visas, there's T visas. If you marry a U.S. citizen, may be an option. But if you overstay too long and don't have those options, there's not much that you could do. Jesus says, hello, is the Dallas office taking longer than usual to charge accounts after receiving an application? Not that I know of. Sometimes randomly on some cases it'll take longer. As Jaja says, any update on the I-130, how long it takes to be approved? No updates, the same as always. King Yoba for the last year or two. King Yoba says, what's the approval time right now for spouse living outside the United States? Well, there's not, first of all, enough information in the question. Is it marriage to a U.S. citizen or is it marriage to a green card holder? What country are they from? What issues a case may have? Does it need a waiver? So it could be a year. It could be inevitably endless because there's pauses and bans. And even with there's no pause and bans, it could be 5 or 6 years, maybe even longer, depending on if you're married to a green card holder, for example, or which EMS you're dealing with. So please schedule a private consultation. I have detailed videos on this on YouTube, going long form on this, so watch those on our JQK Law YouTube page. But if you're asking this question, you probably don't have an immigration attorney. It's good to have one to plan things out because that's a question that means it indicates to me we need to go dive deeper about what's going on in your case. Lonnie says I have more than 6 mistakes that made on M400. Is that an issue? It could be. I mean, 6 mistakes is a lot of mistakes. I'm not sure how that happened. But schedule a private consultation. We'll talk about it. But just saying mistakes, if you just misspelled your name, okay, that's not a big deal. But if you lied or something like that about your history about not paying taxes, and that's a big mistake. So just telling 6 mistakes is meaningless. It could be 1 or 6 or 1,000. Doesn't make a difference when I don't know what the exact mistakes are. Dahlia says, hi, John. Any updates on the 75 country pause? Are you able to help? My husband was approved, but they couldn't print the visa. So it wasn't approved because they didn't print the visa. So he's approved when he's got the visa printed. No updates unless your spouse is a minority. But then again, the 75 country ban is there as well. And this goes for the other gentleman whose wife's going to India. Even if they are part of a minority and he gets approved, there's another ban or a pause right now based on the affidavit of support and public charge. So those cases are all paused essentially. King Oba, thank you for the viewer. We got to get you at the viewer badge. 505 says, do we need an employment record of no NOC for CEC? I'm not sure what you're talking about. Tax says, I arrived in the U.S. 3 months ago on a B2 tourist visa. I decided to get married and just asked what evidence do I need. Download that guide, the Ultimate Marriage Green Card Guide at marriageimmigrationlaw.com. Again, that's marriageimmigrationlaw.com. You can take it from there. 55, I don't know what you're talking about with all this different stuff, so I can't help you. But again, download our guide at marriageimmigrationlaw.com's website tax and then schedule a private consultation to see what's going on in your case and the risk that exists for doing this. So you're well aware with your eyes open about what you're going to be handling, what's going on with your immigration case. All right, everybody. So we're about to end the show soon. If you haven't already, ask your question really quick, and then we'll call it a day. We'll be back next Tuesday at 4 p.m. Pacific, as we always do, take your immigration questions live. User 48 says, how are consular interviews different from adjustment interviews? So first of all, consular interviews, that's getting a visa, immigrant visa through the embassy, as opposed to inside the United States with USCIS. Only one party usually goes. So if you're a marriage case, only the actual applicant goes. Typically, the U.S. spouse isn't needed. But in the United States, both parties go if you're doing a marriage case. And the other thing is, the United States, they're going to ask more questions about your personal background and stuff like that. Consular interviews typically would be, they'll take an hour, but they won't go as deep a lot of times into your background. But certain bans and stuff apply overseas more than they do inside the United States. And the consular officers are going to be pickier on certain aspects of your case than they will in the United States. So there's a different culture of what they're looking for. So it really depends on your case, which country you're from, and that kind of stuff. So more info is needed. But there are small differences. But you got to have a strong case either way. It's really what should be the focus instead of the differences. Eric says, I'm a Canadian citizen, was born in Iran. My dad petitioned for me in 2016, had my interview mid-2024, been on administrative process for 20 months. Should I file a Mandamus waiver, or is it pointless right now with the bans? Lonnie says, are you recommended to go to my interview with a lawyer? Depends on your case. So, I don't always, some lawyers make it mandatory. I'm more flexible, but I got to see what needs your case has and how well you handle yourself in answering questions and being under the pressure. Then I make a determination if you need a lawyer or not, if you're like our client, if I should come with you or not. MER says, why do you think about the DV Lottery 2026 winner's pause lawsuit? I don't have anything to think about it. It's what the judge thinks about it, not what I think about it. It doesn't matter. So everybody, thank you so much. Dahlia asked, the consult told my husband he was approved, and once the pause is lifted, they'll email for the passport. This is for Egypt, IR1. Yeah, I mean, they say that. They say a lot of things. So someone recently posted where the officer said they're approved. There was inside the U.S. case. They got a notice to appear in immigration court to get deported, and it was a mistake the officer made. So that's good. They probably are okay, but really, it's like when you say approved, it's when you have the visa approved. The officer indicated positive indication. Is the way. I mean, it's very technical, but for me, I can't consider an approval if you don't have the win, the trophy in hand. And even then, like during the last travel ban, this time it's okay, but in the last travel ban, if you had the approved visa and the travel ban happened, they wouldn't let you in. So you have to be inside the United States to be able to bypass it. So there's a lot of steps that you got to be aware of. Emil says, I wish you feel better. Thank you so much. It's allergies, so I'm stuck with this kind of stuff. Shine says, I have my I-13 approved, mother citizen, child over 21. I enter the visa current with DACA. If you didn't maintain status, it's going to be a problem if it's over 21 case. So schedule a private consultation so we see what's going on, Shine, and take it from there. You might need to do consular processing, but we got to see. You might need I-824, transfer the case out. We got to see what's going on if you kept the case alive, if it's terminated. RP says, yeah, but when they say approved, they mean they're recommending for approval. Supervisor, yeah, recommending for approval. It's a recommendation. It's not actual approval. But it's good that they said that. But I've had them say that, and a day later send an email saying these are the problems. Fill out form DSD 535. We're still doing background checks, so you can't really rely on what they say. It's only actually what's in hand. Even then, it's not fully reliable. They'll come back, especially under this administration. All right, everybody. God bless. Be safe. I'll see you all next Tuesday at 4 p.m. Pacific. I'm Immigration Lawyer John Khosravi. If you want to schedule a private consultation, go to jqqlaw.com/contact. That's jqqlaw.com/contact. God bless. Be safe. I'll see you all next week. Bye-bye.